Greetings YouTube, this is Sixus, and today I'm doing a top 10 list of the worst draw cards in the game. And beginning the list, we have Joak Dino. This is a level 3 dinosaur tuner with 1700 attack and a hero defense. Its effect is at once during each player's end phase. If this card destroyed an opponent's monster by battle this turn, you can tribute one Joak monster to draw 2 cards. Now I'd say this one isn't particularly bad, it's just the fact that there's 2 conditions you have to meet and the delay. Now the first condition, which is it has to destroy a monster by battle, I'm glad that it doesn't say and sent to the grave, because that means you can easily use a token made by Lost World in order to attack over that. And additionally, the second condition, which is you have to tribute a Joak monster, that one I would say is a little bit more of a drawback, because let's say this is your only monster. You're going to draw 2 cards during the end phase, so you can't use them yet, and you won't have a monster on the field. Everything else considered, Oviraptor and Fossil Dig make this very easy to bring out, so consistency isn't really a problem with this. It's just the fact that I don't think it would be used that much for the draw effect, more the fact that it's a level 3 dinosaur tuner. Now, on to the next one, we have the Pride of the Week. This is a continuous spell card, and it's when a level 2 or lower monster you control destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard. Well, this one does have that restriction. If you have no cards in your hand, draw 2 cards. Strangely enough, the easiest part about this is destroying a monster with a low level monster, because King of the Scar Serpent exists, and it's actually the one depicted on this card. The destroying them by battle is easy. The send to the graveyard could be a problem with some of these. So, for example, I can think of Paleozoics would get banished, so they don't go to the graveyard. And then there's Pendulums, which don't go to the graveyard. And that condition aside, you still have to have no cards in your hand to activate this effect. Certainly doable, but I don't think this card is that consistent. You can't pull this off that often. I know I did use this in a Scar Serpent deck a few years ago, but I don't think Pendulums were that big of a thing back then. And even back then, I couldn't pull it off that often. But yeah, it's not terrible, but I don't think it's going to be that doable. Next up, we got Electric Snake. This Thunder monster has the effect that when it is discarded from your hand to the graveyard by the effect of a card your opponent controls, you can draw 2 cards. Yeah, the problem with this is that your opponent has to make you discard it, meaning you're entirely reliant on your opponent, and I can only think of cards like some X-Sabers and Wind Up Hunter that can actually send cards from your opponent's hand to the graveyard. Other than that, it's what? You're relying on your opponent having Morphing Jaw or card destruction, and that's not going to happen because in the TCG we have not only Dark Words but also Danger, so they know it's going to be a bad idea to make you discard cards. And this is probably the least concerning of all the ones you could discard. So yeah, it's just like opponent reliant, and most of the time it's just going to be a dead card. Next up, we have Dark Spirit Art Greed. It's a normal trap card that says you can tribute 1 dark monster to draw 2 cards. However, your opponent can negate this effect by revealing 1 spell card in their hand. Closest similarity I have to this is Magic Drain, and at least with Magic Drain they have to discard the spell card. With this one, they just have to reveal it, meaning they're not even losing a card. And either way, you're losing a dark monster, which I find kind of pointless because Dark already has a Law of Darkness and Beginning of the End, So why do they need another draw card specifically for Dark when, like, Earth, Fire, and Wind don't even have one? It's just redundant and unnecessary, and seriously, a card that can negate itself for no cost. Yeah, that's a great idea. And next up, we got Treasure Map. With Treasure Map, this card can only be activated in response to an effect that would return it from the field to the hand. And its effect is draw 2 cards from your deck, then discard 1. So, let me get this straight. Only cards like Hey-Shunade, Gravelstorm, and Abyss Soldier can actually pull off this effect. Which is very situational, and yeah, technically it doesn't have to be your opponent doing it. You can trigger the effect yourself. So Abyss Soldier always has a discard cost. And on top of that discard, you would have to have had this set from your previous turn and not get blown up, not be returned to the deck. Nothing has to happen to it. And then you have to use one of these cards to return it to your hand, which in turn would activate it. It's just very delayed. Probably the second most delayed one on this list. Oh, another thing I'd like to say about this is that it was printed as a secret rare in English. That's the only English printing of it. Does this really seem deserving of a secret rarity? I guess thematically it makes sense because the treasure map. But other than that, next up we have Card of Sacrifice. Draw 2 cards if the combined attack of all your face-up attack position monsters, minimum 2, is less than the attack of your opponent's face-up monster with the lowest attack. And you cannot summon or change power position the turn you activate this card. Let's focus on that last line. You cannot summon or change power position the turn you activate this effect. Not for the rest of this turn or after you activate this effect. No, it's the entire turn. Meaning, you could not have summoned or changed the power position of any card before or after you activate this. I'd say that's a big problem. And which means that you would have to have 2 monsters, 2 very big monsters, that you could not have summoned this turn, and they had to all be in attack position. And they have to be weaker than your opponent's weakest monster, which they're 0 attack monsters. That's always a problem. You have to be in a losing situation to even attempt to pull off this effect. And you can't do anything else that turn. So you can use spells and you can set traps, but that's it. You can't make any other plays. You can't, and you certainly can't get rid of the monsters. No link summons, no Xyz. So next up we got Mystical Cards of the Light. This is a continuous spell. And its effect is that you cannot use one of your spell trap card zones. So, because it's continuous, it's already taking up a zone, but now you're losing another zone. Then, if you have this and another copy of itself on the field, meaning you're losing 4 spaces, 2 for the cards themselves, and 2 due to their effects, during your draw phase, you draw 2 cards instead of 1. So it's delayed, it's very disruptible, and, well, they can get rid of it MST, but there's a chance they might not want to get rid of it, because at least that means they only have to worry about 1 spell trap zone. Why would this ever be considered a good idea? Okay, next up, we got Boon of the Mechlord Emperor. This one states that if the only face-up monsters on the field, as in your opponent's field, are 2 Mechlord monsters, draw 2 cards. You cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this card. 2 Mechlords, and your opponent can't control anything. Well, technically, if they are winning Mechlords, this could work, but that's never going to happen. You have to control 2 Mechlords, and there has to be no other monsters on the field. Which is always a big problem. I guess if you're going up against a flip deck, it won't be that difficult because they won't be face-up monsters. But other than double summon and the field spell that gives you an additional summon, how are you going to be able to get those out and have this in your hand? I don't even know if it's such on the deck. And then you can't even battle, which that's the biggest advantage the Megalord Emperors have. That being that they have high attack values, but you can't even utilize those. Next up, we have Red Dragon Vase. If you control a Red Dragon Archfiend, not monster, Red Dragon Archfiend, so only Scarlet or the original, you can draw 2 cards, and you cannot normal or special summon monsters the turn you activate this effect. And you also can't do that until the end of your opponent's next turn after this is activated. Note the first part of the second sentence. You cannot normal or special summon monsters the turn you activate this card. Meaning, similar to Card of Sacrifice, you cannot do it before or after. And this revolves around 2 monsters that have to be special summoned. So you can't even do this the turn you summon it out. You have to already have it on the field. It has to not be destroyed. You have to not do any plays this turn, or the end of your opponent's turn. And all you get is 2 cards. So you are getting an advantage, but you had to delay, meaning this card is mostly going to be a dead card most of the time, because it's not even with any Red Dragon Archfiend. It's a specific one. Yeah, lockdown of every summon for 2 cards. And finally, we have Heroic Gift. This trap card states that if your opponent's life points are 2,000 or less, make their life points 8,000. And if you do, draw 2 cards. You can only activate this once per turn. Really, a hard once per turn on something like this. How are you going to bring their life points up to 8,000 and bring it back down to 2,000 in 1 turn? That is a very pointless hard once per turn clause. Additionally, it is technically part of the archetype because it can be searched out with Assault Halberd and you can discard it with the effect of Thousand Blades. Nothing to do with the heroic archetype, but I guess it's there. And seriously, if you're in a winning situation, why make your opponent gain life points and then draw 2 cards? You're already winning. You don't need this. And also, this was added to Duel Links, which I find even dumber, because you can now make their life points become double their original life points. Yeah, that's funny. But that's all there is to it. It's just funny. So yeah, that's the 10 worst draw cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Tell me if you disagree with the ordering, think I forgot something, anything like that. Well, that's all for this time.